It's Nancy Baumann, the book professor and the founder and creator of Bookarma. And I'm really excited that you joined us here today because we have Bernie Frazier here. Bernie is the president and founder of Career Compass LLC, which is a speaking and career coaching firm. She's also spent 25 years in recruiting and has led talent acquisition for 4 different companies across 4 industries. So she really understands this whole space of, when are people ready to make a change? And that's what she's here to talk to us about today. Bernie's mission is to help people find freedom and fulfillment in their career. And doesn't that sound like a great thing? And she does this through coaching CEOs and, from CEOs to just recent college graduates. She's also a really sought after speaker for businesses and organizations and academic institutions and professional associations. So Bernie is here to talk to us today about how to flip the switch. What are the signs that you're ready to do it? And, how would you get started or even know if becoming a full-time author is the right thing for you? So I know that a lot of people that I'm working with through both the book professor and on Bookarma, already published authors, they really would like to write full time. And so Bernie's going to tell us how we do that and if we're ready. So Bernie, do you want to say a couple things about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. And Nancy, thank you again as well. As Nancy said, I spent a lot of years in corporate America. While I ran 4 recruiting programs for 4 companies, I actually did recruiting in 6 organizations overall. I just led 4 programs. I worked with a lot of candidates from a job search standpoint, and certainly in my own business being a career coach. I've had the pleasure of working with some wonderful clients, and a number of them have made career transitions. So there are certainly some things that I've seen over the decades, and certainly within my business that can be really good signs that a person is ready to make a move.
Well, we're anxious to hear that because, like I said, I encounter a lot of people who want to be a full-time writer. And it's, right now they're writing, but they're having other jobs and they've got other responsibilities, and that's not their main focus, although they would like it to be. So in your work as a career coach, does that seem common to you or is that rare? What's your experience?
It's interesting. I've worked with a number of people who have wanted to make a transition, a full-time transition into doing something completely different. There have been a few of them that have wanted to transition into becoming full-time authors. Some, they can't even fathom it. I think they may even have that desire, but their mind won't really let them go there, excuse me, to be a full-time author. But I have had a few that they have wanted to do that, and we work to help them put together a plan so that they could actually make that transition and make it as painless as possible.
Well, that's great. And I do want to just kind of tell our viewers here that if you have any questions for Bernie, type them into your chat box and we'll answer them, during this webcast. So we want to get all your questions answered. So, okay, so, you've encountered a few, people who want to be full-time writers. So what do you tell them? What are they supposed to do about that?
Yeah, no, great question. And it's interesting. Over time, when you do this type of work, you start to look at trends, and you make notations of here are things that you tend to see over and over again. And so when I think about the clients that I've had, and even when I have reflected back further with whether it was friends and family that I've had conversations with, and even candidates over the years, I've kind of boiled it down to 5 things that I share with them so that they can start to really determine whether they are ready to flip that switch, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I just jotted a couple of things down here because I didn't want to forget anything. But the 5 things that I share are, the first one, which I think is the most important, is you have to know what you want. There are a lot of people, we have these great ideas and they're floating around our head. But if someone was to ask you that question, what do you want? A lot of people get stuck and they really can't give you a good, clear answer. So that is certainly the first one. The second one is you have to have a plan. Yeah. Most of us We're not born with the silver spoon or the gold spoon or the platinum spoon. And so we need to have a plan for transition. And a lot of times it's not just about us. If there are families that need to be considered, how will this affect the family? And so you have to have a plan for that transition in order to help you increase your odds of success. The third one is, it's counting up the cost. And that goes back to the reality of it. We have so many of these great ideas, and Nancy, you and I are business owners, and so we, can personally appreciate this. But for people that want to actually make that transition, you have to count up those costs, and I do mean the dollars. And does it make sense for you to do it? Can you afford to make this transition? Can your family afford to make the transition? The fourth one that I really start to look at, and when I'm coaching a client, I do a lot of observation, because one of the things I'm looking for with those who want to make a transition is their dream starting to interfere with their reality. And what I mean by that is there's some clients that I've had and people that I've known where the calling of that dream has become so strong that it is distracting them from their reality. Maybe it's starting to interfere with their performance, their attention span. It may be creating physical anguish within their bodies. And so I work with clients to talk through what is really bringing that on, because I've seen with some clients, where they have really psyched themselves into believing now is the time. And for some, it really ends up being the right time, but for others, they have built it up so much so in their minds that they've made it the time. But as you really start to think through and look at all the different components, they realize, okay, I think I've probably built this up more so than it really is. And I really need a plan that will help me get through whatever that next time period is.
So that kind of goes back to you need a plan kind of a thing. You don't want to get the cart before the horse.
A plan is a huge part of it. But it's also looking at what you're working with nowadays and where you are. There are some situations, unfortunately, where work can truly become a toxic environment for a person, and they have legitimate reasons where they almost need to run off the job because it's really creating the physical anguish and stress, or even some mental components. That's not often the case, but there are cases where that occurs. But it's really, sometimes we have this dream, or we have a calling, if you will, and it becomes so strong that the time really has come that it's time to pursue it. But I think there's
let me just jump in here for a second, because I'm really familiar with that. As when I help people write their nonfiction books, is that it percolates for a long time in them, and it gets to a point where there's so much noise up there that they actually have to get it out, and it causes them anguish, because that's when their ideas are meeting the opportune time, and they have to get it out of them. So I can appreciate that.
It's like if you think about a pot on a stove. If you have something boiling, and if it's simmering, it may simmer for a long time, but if it starts to boil, at some point it could start to boil over. It's lifting the lid off the pot. It's starting to ooze down the sides. And so when I work with clients, I help them talk about and think through, where are you? Are you just simmering? Have you started to boil? Or is it really starting to ooze over and it's time to lift the lid and let it go? And so I help them really think through that, because, Nancy, as I'm sure you can attest to, and I know in my own personal walk, as I transition, it's hard to be objective when you're one involved. Yes. And a lot of times it's good to have someone to kind of bounce something off of, because they can see what you can't see and hear what you can't hear. And we can't see our blind spots.
That's exactly right. And it's the same process when they're writing their book, is that they have so much of the backstory inside them, which is exactly what you're saying, that it's hard to be objective and to know what if you're really meeting your goal. So
exactly. And so that's why I call that one kind of, is your dream interfering with your reality? And I walk with clients to help them figure out, is that yes, or is it no, or is it maybe? And if it's maybe, we've got to get it to one side or the other. And then the fifth one, which isn't necessarily a requirement, but boy, it sure helps. And that is, do you have the support of the people around you? You know, I don't think, you know, I'm sure we could come up with example after example of the renegade, if you will, who, against all odds, decided to pursue their goal or their dream, and it worked out for them. But I would be willing to bet that if you talk to those people, it sure would have been a lot easier if they had had the support of family and friends.
Sure.
And if you think about it, we can have something that's burning on the inside of us, and we know we're supposed to do it. But if everyone that's around you, that you care about and that you know care about you, if they are going, I don't know, or are you sure? Well, you know, you're starting to get them, you're hearing the hemming and the hawing coming from them. It takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to press forward anyway, because those seeds of doubt can get planted.
Right.
And they can start to take root and grow. But if you have people around you that are going, you know what, we've been waiting on you to do this. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. It makes a world of difference. And that's just one weight that you don't have to try to lift.
Well, and that can be kind of a tricky thing, because sometimes, you know, the people around you aren't supportive of anything you do. So, you know, I guess what you're saying is you can help people weed through what, you know, what the other voices are saying to them and whether they should regard it or disregard it.
Exactly. But it is something to consider. You know, it's always easier if you have that wind beneath your wings, so to speak, in the form of your family and friends. But that's why I said in the beginning, it's not required, because I'm sure, you know, the people who are watching this now, I'm sure you can, and I know I can. There are people in our lives, we love them, but there are people, when I'm trying to do something, I don't even share it with them until after I'm done, because I know they're always the, no pun intended, but the negative Nancy, if you will.
Oh.
You know, that's why I said no pun intended.
Don't say that.
The negative Ned. How about the negative Ned?
Yeah.
But it's so, and you know what I mean? They love you, they care about you, but often people will put their limitations on you. And you have to be sensitive to who may do that and who may not, and seek wise counsel. But if you have, you know, a couple of people that you really value their opinions, you respect them and trust them, and you know they're going to give it to you in the most unbiased way possible, it might be good to share what you're trying to do with them. But I always caution people, this is not something to share with everyone. Right. Because not everyone can see your vision, and they don't have the drive and passion and all the other resources that are needed to make it happen. But it is something to say, you know, if you have the cheerleaders behind you, it just makes it a much easier load to carry forward.
Sure. So you told us the 5 things to consider, you know, the 5 signs, so to speak. So can you just run through those real quickly again, Bernie?
Sure, absolutely. It's know what you want, have a plan, count up the cost to see if you can afford it, excuse me, check and see if your dream is interfering with your reality, and then, if possible, have the support of the people closest to you.
Yeah, so this is a reasoned approach. It's not like I'm going to just fly on emotion and jump in and then look back and think, oh my gosh, what have I done? You know, you really help people to carefully consider, you know, what the ramifications will be as well as the benefits.
Right, and you know what? I'm the objective bystander. And so there are times where, you know, even when I've worked with clients, I have to ask those tough questions, particularly if there are things I hear or I see, and I'll have to pull those out, you know, and go, okay, here's what I've heard, you know, let's say the last 2 sessions. You have said this, but you've written this, but your body language says this and your face is saying this.
Yeah, the congruency, right?
Exactly. So, and I help them talk through and think through it. And typically, if I see something or if I hear something like that, they'll sit there and they'll go, "You're right. I've been thinking this all along, and I just didn't know how to deal with it." I go, "Well, let's talk through it." Yeah. And I help them, you know, get to the root of maybe some of the fears, some of the concerns. Some of the apprehensions, or some people there go, yes, I'm ready to go. And I go, okay, have you considered X, Y, and Z? And they go, huh? And I go, well, I'm not saying this has to stop you, but it is something you may want to consider, and maybe we should spend some time talking about it.
So what if they have a general idea of what they want to do or how to get started, you know, but they aren't 100% sure? How does that work?
Well, you know, one of the things about it that I think to help alleviate some of the pressure that people will put on themselves to be 100% sure, because I do say you have to know what you want, but I don't know if any of us are ever 100% sure of what we want. I think
or sometimes I think I want something. Sometimes I think I want something. I get it. I'm like, I didn't mean that.
Exactly. So be careful what you ask for.
I know.
But I can think about when I stepped out and transitioned out of my corporate job into my business. Nancy, you probably had some of this as well. We had a good idea of the things we wanted to accomplish, but I can't say that I was 100% sure that this is what I'm going to do, and for the next 20 years, this will be it. I go, this is the space that I want to focus on, because this is where my interests are, my talents are, my experience, and what I would like to drive forward. But I do tell a lot of people, if you want a good indicator of whether you are at least on solid ground with what you want, write down a SMART goal for me with it.
What is
if
that?
they can write a SMART goal, then I go, okay, you've at least thought through this well enough that you have enough information to potentially move forward.
Okay, well, I know about goals and writing down goals. What do you mean by a SMART goal?
A SMART goal. I'm so glad you asked. Great segue. Now, a SMART goal, a SMART is actually an acronym, and it is SMART, but it is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So, often we have all of these great ideas in our head, but when I start to ask people, but have you written them down? Most people go, well, no, I've been thinking about it. But as humans, we have all of this stuff going around our head, and, it's great until we try to write it down and we can't even clearly get it down. So when you write a SMART goal, it really challenges you to put down a goal that is tangible and not just the pie in the sky. So, for instance, if you're being specific, the question is, what exactly do you want to accomplish? So let's say in the case of an author or a budding author, I want to be a full-time author. Okay, that is the specific thing you want to accomplish. So we go to M, measurable. How will you know when you've made progress? And when you're getting to the measurable part, that needs to be quantifiable. There needs to be a number, a date, of a dollar amount, something in there. So you may say, I want to have my first draft of my book written by August 31st of this year. Okay, so now at least you have something to measure, so that if September 1st comes and you haven't written that first draft, then you didn't make the mark, at least not the mark that you set for yourself. Is it achievable? Is your goal achievable or reachable with reasonable stretch and effort? And I like to put the last part in, because, we can say something is achievable, but it's really too easy. A goal should stretch you some, but it shouldn't take you so far out that you look at it and go, there is no way I can achieve this. I want to be a brain surgeon by the end of May. And good luck, as Dr. Phil would say, good luck with that. How's that working for you?
Yeah.
Right. So, but when you're thinking about achievable, it's in this case, it could be capability. Can I really become a full-time author? One, do I have at least decent writing skills?
Yeah, that's actually a very important component. Yes.
Right. If you're a horrible writer, if you always flunked English, you may either want to get some assistance or consider something else. But another is, do I have a story to tell?
Yes.
It's one thing to want to be an author. Okay, an author of what?
Yes.
And
because there's so many different types of writing, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, etc. So.
Right. But even within that space, once okay, I want to be a nonfiction writer. Okay, great. So what are you going to write about? And if you're sitting there like a deer in headlights going, I have no idea.
Then you need to call me. Then you need to call me, and I'll help you walk through that whole process. Right. Yeah, because that is one of the
Baumann.
Yeah. Because that's such a love.
That is the achievable part. Yeah, and then realistic. Can the result that I want realistically be achieved given the available resources? So again, you may get to, okay, I want to do this. Do I have the funds to make the leap? Do I have the time to invest in order to make the leap? So you're looking at what the reality is for you, and then, of course, time bound. So we go back to what the specific was. I want to be a full-time author. So to make it time bound, by when? Right. So if the goal is I want to have my first draft written and submitted to a publisher by August 31st, and I'm just making these dates up, of course. I know you cringe at this.
I am cringing. I'm like, no, don't do that. That's too fast.
And that's why I said, so folks, these are not real dates. But it's just to give you an idea. You say, okay, once I get that draft submitted, that next day, I want to make the transition with my career. So by September 1st, I want to be a full-time author. So what you're doing, you're taking all of those pieces and you're putting them together. But a SMART goal, it also challenges you to think about what it is you're saying you really want to achieve, and not just pulling, a rabbit out of your hat, but really giving it some thought so that you can make it a good quality goal for yourself.
Exactly. Well, so let's say they want to know what they want to do and they have a goal, but they don't have the plan for achieving that goal. What would they need to think about?
Okay, and that's a good question. Let's say if the goal is indeed, I want to be a full-time author by September 1st. So what they need to consider is, okay, if you're working in a career now, if you're working in a job now, what will you need to do to make that transition on the job and away from the job? So again, it goes back into creating that plan, but what are the different buckets, if you will, that need to be addressed in order to do that? Number one, what's happening in your current career? And let's say if you are at a level where you get bonuses every year. Sorry, I had a brain lock there for a second. But if you get an annual bonus, and if you know that the bonus payout is going to occur in 3 months, and you could get a very handsome payout, do you really want to leave now, or can you stay long enough in order to get that money, which will just help you and make it a little bit easier with your transition? What type of work are you doing? Are you in a very key role that if you were to just up and leave, it could create major disruption? And I never encourage that, because I always encourage clients, when you leave on a positive note. You want your reputation to be good going in, while you're there, and as you exit the organization.
Yeah, like in everything you do, you have to maintain that integrity and
exactly.
a loyalty to not abandon others.
Exactly. I just don't think, I don't think you can leave a situation badly with the hopes of entering into the next one in a good way. Yeah. I just think, that karma, if you will.
Exactly.
So I think it's always good to leave on a high note if possible. But, for the time that you're going to be with your employer, are there opportunities that you can take advantage of while you're still there that may help you in your transition? Mm-hmm. Is there additional training that you can take advantage of? Completing some sort of course? Are there people that you think it would be great to be connected to that can help during the transition or post-transition that maybe you've had minimal interactions with them, but can you take the next few months to really start to create a really stronger relationship with them before you leave? Outside of work, how do you prepare if you have a family? Yeah. Do you need to prepare a spouse? Do you need to prepare your children? Does your budget need to change? And so you all need to have discussions around what things you're going to have to sacrifice, or you're going to have to cut back on spending, or maybe you can't take 2 vacations this year. We're going to have to take 1, or we may have to do just a smaller vacation. And so it's considering all of those things. What other planning do you need? What kind of schedule? How will your schedule need to change? During this time that you're planning to leave, you may want to start writing now. Well, if that's going to take up additional hours in a week that you may not already have, what time will you have to sacrifice in order to start building time in to do your research for your book, to start your writing? And so it's really considering all of the different things that will be affected by your transition. And as you're working towards your transition, and then creating a plan of how you will address each one of those.
You mentioned the whole family thing and the money, and obviously that is really important. I mean, we need income and we need
Oh yeah.
resources, and some people feel really constricted by that. So, would they do if they don't have access to enough money, but they want to take that leap? I mean, what are the options? You talked about it
Well,
starting to
right.
interfere with their lives. What if that's happening, but they don't know how they'll finance the whole thing?
When people are in that situation, it's really, really hard, especially if you have a work situation that has become literally unbearable.
Mm.
That's a tough one, and it is an incredibly hard choice to make because a sacrifice will have to occur. On one hand, you will either have to sacrifice your sanity and your peace of mind. The other, you may have to sacrifice income and some of the struggles that can come with not having enough funds to pay all the bills every month. And that really becomes a very personal choice that no one can make. But I am of the adage, and I only say this for me, that there isn't a job on the planet worth my peace of mind.
Right.
And if I have a job that it's stressing me out, my blood pressure's running up, I can't sleep, and I'm having digestive disorders, and all the other things that I've heard that can come along with it. For me personally, a job is not worth it, and I would be willing to take the risk in leaving. Now, again, I do underscore that's for me. I don't encourage everyone else to take that approach because everyone is in a different place. However, I think one of the things that I have done with clients, because I've had a few, I mean, literally, they're in tears going, I can't go back to that place tomorrow. Yeah. And the good news is for the majority of those folks, as I have worked with them and we've talked through it, one of the things that's come out is some of the bad they have built up in their own minds be worse than it actually is. And some of it is centered around they're ready to go. So, any little pinprick, they turn it into a bullet hole. Yeah. And so I've had to, if you will, kind of talk them down from the ledge to go, okay, let's really look at this thing and not look at how you want it to be. And once we've been able to talk through a few of those areas, I was able to help them see, okay, it may not be ideal for you, but it's not as bad as you're thinking it is. Let's figure out how we can make this work to your advantage for the time that you have to be there. And so, if nothing else, it's steady income and benefits. And so what I've helped clients do is put together monthly and even quarterly goals toward making their transition so that they can see work as a means to an end and not the end itself. Okay. And almost get to the point of saying, okay, I am taking advantage of what work is giving me, sustaining me right now, while I use that time to plan and start to move toward my future. And a lot of times when they can make that shift, they can see it again as a means to an end, but not the end itself. And a lot of times people, they get bound up because they start seeing work as the end and there's nothing beyond it versus this is just a temporary stop that I am taking advantage of while I'm planning and preparing to move forward.
So a lot of it's a mindset thing, right? It's like how you think about it.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a mindset. Now, I have had a couple of clients where it took everything in me, and I'm being honest with you, to say, run, get away from that job. Yeah. And I don't say that because, a client has to make that decision. My job as a coach is to present you with all of the options that I see and as much information about each one that I am aware of and can help you research and find so that you can make the best decision for you. But that's certainly, again, been the case in most instances where it hasn't been as horrible as they see it. And we've been able to use it as a stepping stone and almost create an incentive and a way to fire them up even more to work toward that goal of making the transition. So that's certainly one. The other two is, honestly, Nancy, it depends upon an individual's tolerance for risk. There's some people, and I am willing to take a risk, but I'm a calculated risk taker. Yes. But there are some people, they can wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to quit my job today. I'm going to sell all my things. I'm moving to Timbuktu. And they can do it and make it work out for them. And I say, God love those people because I am not one of them. But there's some people, if you have enough risk taker in you, some people, they can take that leap and they can figure it out as they go along, and it works out for them. So I think a lot of it is you have to know yourself and what your level of risk is.
Personality dependent. Now, sometimes I think I'm going to run away and sell all my stuff and go disappear, and that's just like, it's not running to something, it's like running away from something. So
exactly.
So those are the kind of things that, people really do think about. And I would say, too, that if you want to become a full-time writer, then you really need to be writing all the time. You need to be, and that's probably the case, is that write every day. Write something every day and see if you like that. What if you don't, what if you, aren't writing? If you're not writing every day, how do you know if you would like to write every day? And because it's lonely, that's another thing I'm sure you take into consideration, Bernie, is that what is the lifestyle like of this new step? And are you prepared to embrace all of it? Not just the time to write, but it can be very isolating as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I talk about with clients, particularly if they're looking to do something where if I know their personality and they tend to be more extroverted, I go, okay, understand you feed off of people and interaction with people, but what you're moving toward, your interactions are going to be very limited. I want you to really think about this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And can you do this? Because this isn't, I'm by myself once a week. No, you're going to be by yourself maybe 4 days of the week.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Or if not, let's create some opportunities for you to have interactions so that you can keep your sanity with it.
Yeah. Would you ever suggest that they maybe take their vacation time, like a week, and see what it's like just to write all week? Just to give it kind of a, test run?
It's funny that you say that. I had one client, I did that. And I did it because I knew she had a lot of vacation time too, so it was easier for her to do it. I said, but why don't you take some days? I don't know if I said a week. I said, but take some days and walk this out and see how it feels, and does this fit? The good news was when she came back, she was even more excited than when she left. Yeah, so that was, it was fun.
Good confirmation.
But she was really appreciative to do that because ironically she said, I've been wondering if I should do something like that, and I just hadn't done it. She said, but I think I am going to do it. And she put in, I think because it was short notice, she couldn't do a week, but she did, I believe it was 3 days. And she loved it. And I said, well, that could be confirmation, right. Kind of check. It might be time to start to, move forward with this. But I think it's an excellent thing for people to do, to really get a feel for it. And, something that you said that I really want to address here with the viewers, when you talked about writing every day.
Yes.
I don't know if how many of your viewers may be familiar with Terry McMillan. She's the author. She wrote Waiting to Exhale and How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Both books were turned into movies.
Yeah.
Well, Waiting to Exhale was the first one turned into a movie, but it wasn't her first book. Her first book was Disappearing Acts, and she wrote it over her lunch hour every day. So, even with people, if they're thinking about, I don't have time to write, it's really how badly do you want something?
Yeah.
Because, she was a single parent. She didn't have time in the evenings because she had her son and all of the responsibilities that came along with that. But she sacrificed some of her lunchtime and she wrote every day on that book.
That's such a great example.
It was that diligence that, one, it brought the book to completion, first of all, but it's a great way to see, can I do this every day?
Well, and the other thing that authors have to have is they have to be self-starters. I mean, look, seriously, we've got all sorts of rituals that we go for before we actually sit down and write. I have to have the right cup and that my coffee's in, and the dishwasher has to be totally loaded, and the laundry has to be all done, and blah, 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 blah. You have to be self-disciplined to have that kind of a lifestyle. And you do. So, a lot of personality traits that will either help you be successful or might prevent you from doing that. And I suppose those are some of the things that you work through as well with your clients.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because, you're when you go from having a boss to being the boss, there's no one to tell you what to do with your days. I mean, if you want to sit and watch, TV and eat bonbons and popcorn all day long, there's no one to stop you.
That's right.
And you have to have enough drive and push within yourself to keep you going. And if you know that maybe that's not your strongest area, but this is something that you're still hungry for, then identify an accountability partner, because that person can go, hey, what are you doing? What have you done? And you set these milestones for every time you have an interaction with that person, and they can hold you to it. And, it's like having that teacher that, you haven't done your homework.
Right. Yeah. And nobody wants to go back empty-handed. Yeah.
Absolutely. But having someone to hold you accountable, someone to encourage you, someone that can give you a different perspective is very important. I know I have 2 accountability partners with my business, and Nancy, I'm sure you have at least one accountability partner.
Yeah.
So even for those of us who are in business, we have, we've accomplished some things. We have so many more things we'd like to accomplish. We have our days too where I go, oh, I just don't feel like doing this today.
Of course.
And then I'll lay in the bed and I go, you know what? If you don't do it, no one else is going to. So get up and get going. So you're going to have those days, even when you're in this, and having someone that can support and encourage you and be that little kick in the hiney that we need sometimes, it really helps a lot.
Right. And it helps you from spinning and spending your time and energy on the wrong things that don't help you accomplish your goal. So yes, absolutely. I think that's very important for any kind of solopreneurs. It's an important concept. So, well, Bernie, you've given us a lot of great information. Anything final you want to leave our audience with?
I guess a couple of things is, if you're not, some people, they may listen to this and they'll go, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ready, some of the things that they were saying. And you'll have others that are going to be even more fired up and they're ready to go. And I encourage you, even if you assess your situation, you haven't been, you're not at a point of being able to write that SMART goal, or you don't have the perfect plan in place yet, work on those things, but don't lose sight of your goal. The work that Nancy does, I know as she and I have talked, and she's on my radar screen with a book that I want to write at some point, is, when you have a story to tell, it's to help other people. And someone told me once, when you aren't fulfilling your purpose, you cause other people hardship, because there's an audience out there that needs what you have to offer.
Yes.
And if you withhold that from them, they are suffering because they're looking for the answer that's in you.
That's right.
So even if it's not now, make it next and not no. So don't lose sight of your goal, and do something to just chip away at it. Little things like write down a note, call someone, do 5 minutes of research, something to just keep it alive in you, because it's so important that the world gets what you have to offer. I think the other thing too is, it's so important though to have a plan to do these things, because you want to set yourself up for the greatest possibility of success.
Of course.
And it's like the old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have a plan. And then the other, which is probably the most difficult, is when you know in your heart that it's time to take that leap, jump. The first step is usually the hardest step. I know even for me, when I started my business, it was in my mind for probably 3 years. And I kept saying, you need to do it, you need to do it, you need to do it. And it was that first step that was the hardest. Once I got past that, it's not that you don't have to make tough decisions along the way. They're just not as hard as getting started. So when you know it's time, you've got your plan in place, your resources are there, you've got whatever support you feel you need to move forward, take the leap.
Thanks, Bernie. Listen, so I typed in your web address. If people want to get in touch with you, is there any other way they could reach you? Is that the best way?
Sure. Actually, the web address is careercompassllc.com.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why didn't you type that in?
That's okay.
Bernie?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
type
the
that in.
LLC is part of it. You know, you can certainly reach me through my website on the contact page.
Hang on.
You can contact me directly. My phone number is 314.
Hang on, I'm going to type that. 314.
Okay. 482 5650.
That's your phone number, and I'm going to retype your web address.
Okay. And if they want to email me directly, you can certainly do that too. And it's just Bernie, BERNIE, at careercompassllc.com.
Okay, so it's
love
BR.
to,
It's
partner with you. I'm sorry.
It's Bernie at, and I'm just going to do that because it's hard for me to type in your whole web address and not make a mistake.
Okay.
Oh, like this. Bernie at careercompassllc.com, right?
Right.
Great.
And, I'd love to partner with those who are, looking at making that transit. I've done it myself.
Yes.
So when I work with clients, I pull a lot from personal experiences because I made a transition within a company once, but then I also did the big leap and made the transition from corporate into my own. And I use that. I use my coaching training and just, my 25 years of experience to work with clients and help them do that. I love to help people find and fulfill what it is that they were called to do. And, in terms of writing books, I encourage it. It's great to have help. You've got Nancy, who is a wonderful partner. She is an overflowing reservoir of knowledge to help you be successful with that. And I really encourage you to reach out to her too, because again, she's on my radar screen for a book that I want to write. So
we're going to do that.
I want to partner with her. I encourage you all to do the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bernie. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody for listening in, and just appreciate that you joined us and hope that you found something that you can put into practice today. So we're going to conclude now. I'm Nancy Baumann, the book professor and the founder of Bookarma, and this was Bernie Frazier of Career Compass LLC. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.